Heck yeah, we can talk about it. It's actually really simple. All back sweetening means is adding in a sweetener after you've finished your process. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're completely done with the whole process. I like to think of it as I back sweeten in the glass, and there's a reason for it. If I back sweeten in the glass, that means that I can sweeten each glass to what and why I'm drinking it that sweet. Sometimes I also add in some fresh fruit right then and there. I know it sounds weird, but if you're making a really nice mead and you wanted to add a little splash of orange juice to it, technically that splash of orange juice would be considered back sweetening. You're adding sweetening on the back end of the brew, or in the glass, which is the final step of the brewing process. But a lot of times when people talk about back sweetening, it means that they've killed the yeast, they've stopped it from further fermentation, and so now they're going to add in some sweeteners in the bottling process. And there's a reason why you do that. So as the mead starts to mature and age on its own, those flavors kind of change. But it's not going to be any more sweet. It's going to be as dry as it ever was. So when you kill the yeast to prevent the yeast that will always be present from fermenting any further sugars you add, now's where you can get really fun. Because you don't have to just back sweeten with honey. I can't remember when I made it, but I made a video a while ago where I talked about different types of sweeteners. I mean, you could use agave syrup, you could use molasses, you could use maple syrup, you could make a simple syrup, you could just put in pretty much anything you want that's a fermentable or sweetening sugar. I mean, technically, I guess if you were really trying to sweeten it without adding in the sugar, you could add in something like stevia or a non-sugar or non-glucose sweetener. You're just sweetening the batch at the end. In some respects, adding in fruit while it's aging in the bottle is kind of a back sweeten, but you're also imparting in more flavors. My favorite thing to do when I want to experiment to see how a mead would taste if I back sweetened is I take a glass, fill it up with a drinking portion, something to taste and sample, and then I take a couple of toothpicks and I dip the toothpicks into whatever I'm thinking about back sweetening. Maple syrup, simple syrup, honey. And I keep dipping those toothpicks in, swirling it around until I go, man, this is really good. Or I go, you know what? I don't think this needed to be back sweetened. But I didn't waste a whole bunch of honey back sweetening a whole bottle that just didn't need it. The back sweetening process, it's just not that complicated. Kill the yeast, sweeten to taste. Cheers. Make mead.